Alex had never imagined living on a space station. It was supposed to be a temporary assignment, a short-term research project, but somehow, here he was, unpacking his few belongings into a small, sparsely furnished room. The walls were metallic gray, lit by faint strips of white light along the ceiling. Outside the window, the vast darkness of space stretched endlessly, dotted with distant stars that glimmered like scattered diamonds. The view was breathtaking, yet strangely lonely. He had been warned that living in space came with adjustments. The zero gravity was one thing, but the isolation and unfamiliar social customs were another. Most of the other residents were scientists, engineers, and occasional alien diplomats who mingled rarely. Alex didn't know what to expect from his assigned roommate. The station's management had only told him that his roommate was non-human and that communication might take some time to adjust. When Alex finally heard the soft click of the door, he froze. Standing in the doorway was a figure unlike anything he had ever seen. Lyra. Her skin seemed to glow faintly, a gentle, shifting light that pulsed with each breath. Her eyes were large and reflective, changing colors subtly as they focused on him. She moved with fluid grace, each step quiet but deliberate. Despite her alien appearance, there was something familiar in the way she tilted her head, curious and cautious. Hello," Alex said, unsure of how to start. Lyra's response was a soft hum, melodic and unfamiliar. She extended a hand, but not in a typical human gesture. Instead, she waved it slowly, a motion that seemed like both greeting and assessment. Alex hesitated before shaking it. Her grip was gentle, surprisingly warm and somehow comforting. The first few minutes were awkward. Words were difficult. Her language was mostly musical tones, accented with gestures. Alex tried speaking slowly, using simple English. Lyra nodded or tilted her head in response, sometimes letting out a sound that could have been a laugh. It was clear she understood more than she let on. By the time Alex finished unpacking, night had fallen over the station. Or at least, the station's artificial lighting simulated night. Alex was tired but wanted to stretch his legs, explore a little before sleep. He opened the door, intending to step into the hallway, when he realized Lyra was standing there. Not just standing, she was blocking the doorway. I just want to walk a bit," Alex said cautiously. Lyra's eyes shifted, her glow flickering subtly. She tilted her head and made a soft, rhythmic humming sound. Then she placed a hand on the doorframe, not harshly but firmly enough to signal him to stay. Okay," Alex said, his confusion growing. Lyra didn't move. Instead, she pointed toward the corridor and then back to him, her body language suggesting caution, warning, and maybe something he couldn't understand yet. Alex tried again, stepping forward. Lyra gently pressed her palm against his chest, not roughly, but enough to stop him. "What is happening?" he asked, more to himself than to her. Her glow intensified, a kind of shimmering alert that made him instinctively pause. Outside, in the dim hallway light, something shifted. A shadow, tall and angular, seemed to glide across the walls. Alex hadn't noticed it at first, but now he could see the faint shimmer of movement, a presence that didn't belong. His stomach knotted. Lyra's eyes focused on the shadow, and she made a low, quick hum that sounded urgent. She was trying to communicate a warning. Slowly, Alex realized that her insistence on him staying inside wasn't random. There was something dangerous outside, something he couldn't detect, but Lyra could. He swallowed hard and nodded. "Okay, I stay." Lyra's glow softened, almost as if she was relieved. She stepped back slightly, still close but no longer pressing him. Alex sank onto the small bed, feeling a mixture of frustration, curiosity, and nervousness. He didn't know if he should be annoyed at being confined or grateful for her protective instinct. Hours passed. Alex tried to engage Lyra in small talk, showing her items from Earth, describing stories, asking questions about her home world. Lyra responded in gestures and soft tones, occasionally mimicking his words or trying to repeat a sound she liked. It was charming, almost playful, and it helped ease some of the tension. But he couldn't ignore the underlying anxiety. Every time the lights in the hallway flickered or a strange sound echoed down the corridor, Alex tensed. Lyra would shift closer, her presence calm yet commanding. He realized that her body language, her glow, even her small humming sounds were all part of a silent language of protection he didn't fully understand yet. As the night deepened, Alex found himself lying on the bed, staring at the ceiling. He thought about the station, the shadowy figure outside, and the strange sensation that he wasn't alone in more ways than one. Lyra had already established boundaries, and he respected them, even if he didn't fully understand the reason. Hours later, he finally drifted into a light sleep. He was woken intermittently by strange noises outside, metallic clinks, soft whirring, and the occasional rhythmic thump. Each time, Lyra reacted instantly, shifting to block the door, her eyes glowing brighter, her body tense and ready. Alex began to understand the rhythm of her vigilance, how she balanced alertness with calm. Around what felt like the middle of the night, he noticed that the shadow he had seen earlier had moved closer to their room. He couldn't identify it, but it was clear that it was inspecting the door, trying to sense what was inside. Panic prickled at his mind, but Lyra's presence steadied him. She emitted a deep, resonant hum, almost like a protective chant, and he felt a strange warmth wash over him, reducing his fear. "What is it?" he whispered, barely moving. Lyra tilted her head, making a series of soft tones and gestures. He didn't understand her words, but the meaning was clear. Danger, stay, wait, trust. Alex nodded. He trusted her, even if he didn't know exactly why. Hours stretched on like this, a tense mixture of rest and vigilance. Alex began to appreciate the alien nuances of her behavior. Lyra's movements were precise and graceful. She seemed to know instinctively how to respond to threats that he couldn't even perceive. Every time the hallway shimmered with light or a distant noise echoed, she reacted instantly, adjusting her position, humming quietly, her glow fluctuating in intensity. By the time a faint artificial dawn appeared outside the window, Alex felt an odd bond with his roommate. He had entered the room expecting awkwardness, maybe a difficult night, and instead, he had experienced something he couldn't explain. Lyra's presence had been both strange and comforting. He had been confined, yes, but also protected, and for the first time since arriving on the station, he felt a sense of safety in the vast emptiness of space. As the first light spread across the metallic walls, Lyra finally relaxed, stepping back from the doorway, her glow soft and steady. Alex sat up, stretching and rubbing his eyes. "Thank you," he said softly, realizing that words were enough this time. Lyra tilted her head, emitting a series of soft tones that might have been a smile. She didn't need to say more. He understood. For the rest of the morning, they sat in quiet companionship. Alex explored his curiosity, asking about her world, her habits, and the strange abilities she seemed to possess. Lyra responded in gestures and musical sounds, sometimes mimicking him, sometimes showing something entirely new. Every interaction was a lesson, a bridge between human and alien. By the time the station's daily activities began, Alex was no longer anxious about living with Lyra. He was intrigued, respectful, and strangely grateful. She had protected him, guided him, and in doing so, had created a connection that transcended language and species. He couldn't help but wonder what other surprises and adventures awaited him with this alien roommate. And as the hallway lights flickered one last time that morning, Alex realized that he would never think of isolation the same way again. Space was vast, the unknown could be dangerous, but sometimes companionship came in forms more extraordinary than anyone could imagine. Lyra had proved that all night long, without a single word, and Alex was starting to understand the true meaning of trust, vigilance, and friendship in the most unexpected of circumstances. The station hummed with a low, steady vibration, a sound that Alex had started to get used to. Despite the artificial dawn that simulated morning, the corridors remained eerily quiet. Many residents were still asleep or busy with their own tasks, leaving Alex and Lyra in a pocket of stillness that felt almost like a world apart. Alex had expected the next day to be normal, but living with Lyra meant there was no normal. He watched her as she moved around their shared room, her glowing skin shifting softly with each motion. She seemed restless, alert, as though she could feel disturbances he could not detect. Every so often she would pause, tilt her head, and emit a quiet hum. The vibrations were calming, like the gentle strumming of a stringed instrument. Curiosity got the better of him. "Lyra, what are you sensing?" he asked. His voice was low, careful, almost as if he didn't want to break the fragile calm of the moment. Lyra didn't answer with words. She stepped closer to the window, her hands tracing the air like she was feeling invisible currents. Then she made a series of melodic tones and pointed back at the corridor outside. Alex frowned, trying to interpret her meaning. "Something outside?" he asked. Lyra nodded slightly and stepped between him and the door, her glow flaring briefly. Alex felt a strange mix of fear and admiration. The room suddenly seemed smaller, more intense, as if the walls themselves were alive with tension. He had no way to check the corridor safely, not with whatever Lyra had sensed lurking there. So he stayed put, watching her. Her body moved with a fluid precision, muscles subtly coiled, ready to react to any threat. Even the way her eyes shifted colors seemed tied to her perception of danger. Time passed slowly. Alex tried to distract himself by unpacking the last of his belongings, arranging his small items on the shelves, and organizing his clothes. Yet every sound, every flicker of light in the hallway made him freeze. And each time Lyra reacted first, her hums rising in pitch when danger approached and softening when it receded. Around mid-morning, a strange noise echoed down the hallway, a metallic scraping sound, rhythmic and deliberate. Alex's heart skipped a beat. Lyra stiffened instantly, her glow brightening to a warm orange. She placed a hand lightly on his shoulder, guiding him away from the door. He could feel her intention clear: stay close, stay quiet, stay safe. He swallowed hard and nodded, unable to do anything else. He realized how little he knew about her abilities, yet how much he trusted them. She wasn't just protective. She was instinctively aware of threats he couldn't even perceive. The idea was both terrifying and oddly reassuring. Minutes later he could see it, a silhouette moving at the far end of the corridor. At first it was just a vague shape, a flicker against the wall. Then slowly the outline became clear. It was mechanical, angular, with spindly legs and a body that seemed built for scanning. Alex's mind raced. He had no idea what it was, but judging by Lyra's reaction, it was not friendly. Lyra's glow pulsed rapidly. She moved behind Alex, her body a protective shield. The tones she made were low, urgent, and somehow musical. Alex tried to understand, to find a way to help, but his human senses were useless here. He could only follow her cues, moving as she indicated, keeping quiet, holding his breath when she signaled stillness. Hours passed in this tense standoff. The machine moved closer, exploring the hallway, testing the doors, examining the walls. Lyra responded with precise movements, adjusting their position, using subtle gestures to guide Alex. Every time the machine shifted or emitted a sound, her glow flared and her hums rose in intensity. It was exhausting to watch and wait, but Alex had begun to feel a strange admiration for her. She was graceful, intelligent, and fearless in a way that humans rarely were. At one point, the machine stopped directly outside their door. Alex could see faint lights reflecting off its metallic surface. He wanted to panic, to run, to do something, but Lyra's presence held him steady. She pressed a small, warm hand against his chest, not forcefully but firmly enough to remind him that she was in control. "Trust me," he whispered, though he wasn't sure she understood. Lyra's eyes glowed brighter, and she emitted a soft, melodic hum which he took as acknowledgement. Together they waited. Minutes stretched, each second heavy with tension. Alex's mind wandered to Earth, to friends he had left behind, to simple things like sunlight and fresh air. The contrast with this confined room, this alien companion, and the unseen dangers outside felt surreal. When the machine finally moved on, Alex exhaled slowly. Lyra's glow softened, and she stepped back from the door slightly, though she remained alert. He realized she had been guiding him all along, protecting him without words, teaching him through actions how to survive in this environment. "Why are you so careful?" he asked softly, curiosity winning over fear. Lyra tilted her head and made a series of short tones. Then she gestured toward herself and to the door, emphasizing her connection to the threat outside. Alex nodded slowly, understanding partially. She could sense danger in ways he couldn't, and her instincts were reliable. Over the next few hours, Alex learned more about her habits. Lyra had routines, small actions that seemed trivial but were actually vital for their survival. She checked the air circulation, monitored energy fluctuations, and moved in patterns that created a protective barrier around them. Her senses were finely tuned, and Alex felt increasingly aware of his own limitations in comparison. Despite the tension, there were moments of quiet companionship. Alex showed Lyra images from Earth on his small tablet, pictures of forests, oceans, and animals she had never seen. She reacted with delight, her glow flickering in bright, playful colors, and mimicked the sounds he made, producing musical tones that were both alien and beautiful. In those moments, the danger outside seemed distant, replaced by a strange joy in sharing worlds across species. By late afternoon, Alex felt the exhaustion of constant vigilance settling over him. Lyra remained alert, but even her movements were slower, more deliberate, conserving energy while maintaining protection. He realized how much effort it took to maintain that balance, to be aware of invisible threats, to react instantly and still remain calm. He admired her more with each passing hour. A sudden sound startled him, a metallic clatter, louder and closer than before. The machine had returned. Its spindly legs clicked against the floor as it approached. Lyra's glow flared sharply, and she positioned herself between Alex and the door, her posture tense and commanding. "This is it, isn't it?" Alex whispered, fear and adrenaline mingling. Lyra emitted a rapid sequence of tones, signaling urgency. Alex nodded, following her cues. Together, they moved subtly, making themselves less noticeable. The machine's sensors passed over their door, scanning, calculating. Alex felt his heartbeat in his throat, sweat prickling at his temples. The tension lasted minutes, which felt like hours. Then, as quickly as it had appeared, the machine moved on again, retreating down the corridor. Alex exhaled shakily, glancing at Lyra. Her glow dimmed slightly, and she released a soft hum that seemed like a sigh of relief. "You saved me again," Alex said softly, his voice filled with awe. Lyra tilted her head, her eyes reflecting the simulated sunlight outside. She didn't speak words, but her presence conveyed understanding, almost like a quiet acknowledgement of the bond forming between them. Night fell again on the station. Alex and Lyra settled into a rhythm, moving cautiously, observing sounds and lights, responding to subtle changes in the environment. Alex began to feel more attuned to her signals, learning to recognize the differences in her hums, the flickers in her glow, the shifts in her posture. He realized that survival wasn't just about reaction, it was about understanding and cooperation. Around midnight, another disturbance occurred. This time, Alex could hear it before Lyra reacted, a low, mechanical grinding, different from the previous intrusions. He pointed it out cautiously. Lyra's eyes shifted sharply, her glow pulsing with warning. She moved toward the door, signaling him to stay back. Together, they watched as a new type of machine appeared in the hallway. It was larger, with a more complex design, and moved with intelligence that suggested it could adapt to obstacles. Alex felt a surge of fear, but Lyra's presence grounded him. She seemed to anticipate the machine's actions, adjusting their position, humming in precise, calming tones. They spent the next hours in tense observation. Lyra guided Alex through improvised protective measures, using items in the room to create subtle barriers and distractions. He followed her instructions carefully, marveling at her intelligence and the instinctive coordination between them. He realized that despite being alien, she had an understanding of strategy and timing that complemented his human intuition. By the early hours of morning, the machines had retreated. Alex slumped on the bed, exhausted but exhilarated. He looked at Lyra, her glow dim and steady now, and felt a profound sense of respect and gratitude. She had guided him, protected him, and taught him more in a single night than he had ever imagined learning about survival and trust. As the first light of artificial dawn touched the room again, Alex understood that the night had changed him. He had entered the station as a cautious, slightly naive human, but he now felt a growing connection to the alien world around him. Lyra was no longer just a roommate. She was a teacher, a protector, and a friend. And together, they had survived a night that most humans would never endure. For Alex, the future of living on the station no longer seemed lonely or frightening. With Lyra by his side, he knew that they could face the unknown together, learning from each other, trusting each other, and discovering that friendship and loyalty could transcend species, language, and even the vast emptiness of space. The space station's corridors seemed almost peaceful in the early morning light, but Alex knew better. After 2 nights of close encounters, he could sense that the danger wasn't fully gone. Lyra had been vigilant, teaching him through her actions how to respond, but he realized that survival depended on more than instinct. It required understanding and cooperation. Alex stretched on the small bed, still exhausted from the previous night's tension. Lyra sat nearby, her glow soft and calming, watching the corridor as though nothing outside could escape her notice. He admired her focus, the way she balanced calm with alertness. It was unlike anything he had experienced with humans. Her awareness was total, precise, and deeply intuitive. "What's next?" he asked softly, not wanting to disturb her but needing to process his thoughts. Lyra tilted her head and hummed in a low, steady tone, her glow flickering briefly. The message was clear. They needed to be ready for anything, even now. Alex rose slowly, careful not to make sudden movements. He realized he had learned a lot in just a couple of nights. How to recognize subtle threats, how to interpret Lyra's signals, and how to stay calm under pressure. Still, nothing could have fully prepared him for what was coming. Around mid-morning, a loud, metallic grinding echoed through the hallway. Alex froze, instantly aware that Lyra had already noticed it before he could even register the sound. Her glow intensified, pulsing in sharp, bright flashes. She moved to the door, positioning herself between him and the corridor. He could feel the force of her presence, protective and commanding. The machine appeared at the far end of the corridor, larger than the previous ones. Its body was covered in segmented plates, and its multiple limbs moved with mechanical precision. Alex's stomach twisted. This wasn't just a scouting drone or a minor intruder. It was intelligent, and it was actively searching. Lyra made a series of short, sharp hums, signaling urgency. Alex understood enough now to respond immediately. He moved behind her, following her exact position, letting her instincts guide him. Every time the machine adjusted its sensors, Lyra adjusted their location, keeping them out of its line of detection. Hours passed in tense silence. Alex felt the strain of waiting, his body tired, his mind sharp but weary. Lyra seemed tireless, her movements efficient, her senses finely tuned. She occasionally glanced at him, her glow softening just enough to reassure him. He realized that she was not only protecting him but teaching him how to react to danger. The lessons were unspoken but powerful. At one point, Alex noticed her examining the energy patterns in the hallway. She was analyzing, predicting the machine's movements, and planning their next step. He marveled at her intelligence, recognizing that survival required not just strength but strategy. Slowly, he began to anticipate her signals, learning to move with her rhythm. Late in the afternoon, the machine drew closer. Its sensors swept over the corridor, scanning each door. Alex held his breath, following Lyra's silent instructions. She guided him toward a small storage area near the corner of the room. Together, they crouched, motionless. The machine passed their door, stopping briefly as if it sensed something. Alex could feel his heart pounding. Lyra's hums were low and steady, a calming presence amidst the fear. He realized then that he trusted her completely. She had become more than a roommate. She was a guardian, a companion, and a friend who had risked everything to keep him safe. Hours later, as night fell again on the station, the corridor finally quieted. The machines had retreated, at least for the moment. Alex slumped on the bed, exhaustion weighing heavily on him. Lyra sat nearby, her glow soft and serene. He watched her, fascinated by her alien physiology, her intelligence, and her care. "Lyra, why me?" he asked quietly, not expecting an answer. She tilted her head and hummed in a melodic tone, her glow pulsing gently. Alex didn't understand the words, but he understood the meaning. She had chosen to protect him, to guide him, and to ensure his survival. The bond between them had grown beyond species, beyond language. For the rest of the night, they stayed close, sharing quiet moments. Alex showed her more images from Earth, demonstrating the oceans, forests, and animals she had never seen. She responded with delight, her glow changing in patterns that made him smile. In those moments, the danger outside seemed distant, replaced by a sense of companionship and trust that transcended words. The following morning, the station's activities resumed. Scientists and engineers moved through the corridors, unaware of the battles fought in the shadows of the night. Alex realized how much he had learned, not just about survival, but about cooperation, trust, and the unexpected forms of friendship that could exist between humans and aliens. Lyra moved beside him as he packed his small bag to leave the room for the first time safely. Her glow was steady, reassuring, and he felt a strange warmth at her presence. For the first time, he felt fully confident walking through the station, not because the threats had vanished, but because he had learned to navigate them with her guidance. As they moved through the corridors together, Alex noticed subtle changes in the station's environment, flickers of energy, shadows that shifted unnaturally, and sounds that would have been alarming if he hadn't already learned to interpret Lyra's cues. He realized that his human senses were limited, but with her by his side, he could perceive more than he ever could alone. They passed a maintenance area where a few smaller machines scuttled along the walls. Alex froze, but Lyra's glow intensified, and she guided him silently around the potential danger. He was amazed at her precision and foresight, understanding that she could sense patterns and anomalies invisible to him. Hours later, they reached the observation deck, where sunlight from a nearby star filtered through the glass. The light cast long shadows across the metallic floor, and Alex felt a moment of calm he hadn't experienced in days. He looked at Lyra, her glow blending softly with the sunlight. "You saved me," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. Lyra tilted her head and hummed, her tone soft and melodic. He didn't need words to understand her message. She had guided him, protected him, and stayed by his side through the longest, most dangerous nights of his life. The bond between them had solidified into something unspoken but profound. In the days that followed, Alex began to adapt fully to life on the station. He learned to interpret Lyra's signals quickly, moving in harmony with her instincts. They explored parts of the station together, each adventure filled with cautious observation, shared discoveries, and mutual respect. He realized that living with an alien roommate wasn't just a challenge, it was a unique opportunity to expand his understanding of the universe. Lyra, for her part, seemed to enjoy his company. She mimicked human gestures in playful ways, hummed melodies that Alex tried to replicate, and even shared glimpses of her own world through small, glowing images she projected with her hands. Their bond deepened with each passing day, a friendship built on trust, protection, and the quiet understanding that they had survived extraordinary circumstances together. Alex often reflected on the nights they had endured. What had seemed terrifying at first, the mysterious machines, the strange shadows, the unknown threats, had become lessons in courage, cooperation, and mutual reliance. He had learned to respect her instincts, to follow her guidance, and to appreciate the strength and intelligence of a species far different from his own. One evening, as they rested in their room, Alex looked at Lyra and smiled. "I never thought I'd say this, but I'm glad you're my roommate." Lyra tilted her head, her glow shifting in patterns that mirrored human expressions of happiness. She hummed softly, a sound that Alex had come to understand as laughter. It was a small, simple moment, but it carried the weight of their shared experiences. The nights of danger, the lessons in trust, and the bond that had formed between human and alien. As the artificial night descended on the station, Alex realized that the vastness of space no longer felt lonely. He had a companion, a guide, and a friend who had shown him that survival wasn't just about avoiding danger. It was about connection, understanding, and the courage to face the unknown together. And so, in the quiet of their shared room, Alex and Lyra prepared for whatever the universe might throw at them next. Together, they had learned that even in the darkest corners of a space station, friendship and trust could shine brighter than any star outside. The nights would come again, and with them, new challenges. But Alex was no longer afraid. With Lyra by his side, he understood that no threat was insurmountable, no mystery too complex, and no loneliness too deep. They had faced the unknown and survived, and in doing so, had forged a bond that would endure across the stars. The station hummed, alive with the quiet energy of a universe in motion. Alex looked at his glowing roommate, and for the first time he felt truly at home, not just on the station, but in a world that had once seemed so alien. Lyra's presence reminded him that courage, intelligence, and compassion were not limited by species. Together they would explore, survive, and thrive in the endless possibilities of the cosmos. The night ended with a peaceful stillness. Outside, the stars shimmered, distant and cold, but inside, the room glowed with warmth, safety, and the unspoken promise of new adventures. Alex leaned back, closing his eyes, feeling the calm strength of his alien companion. For the first time in a long time, he slept without fear, knowing that together they could face anything.